I stirred, not fully awake, but no longer lost in sleep either. The room was dark, the kind of darkness that pressed against your skin, heavy and silent. The only sound was the soft hum of the box fan in the corner, brushing cool air over my sheets. I was lying on my stomach, arms curled under my pillow, when I felt something shift. A weight, not sudden. Not jarring. Just gradual. Careful. At first I thought I was dreaming. Maybe part of me hoped I was. But then I felt it. Warmth. A solid chest hovering just above my back, the faint press of knees sinking into the mattress beside mine. The scent of him hit me next. Faint cologne mixed with the softness of laundry detergent. I knew that smell. Rory. I didn't move. My body tensed, but I couldn't will myself to turn around. His breath skimmed the back of my neck, warm, shaky. Too close, way too close. Every inch of me screamed with confusion, anticipation, and the kind of fear that only comes when something you want finally comes too close. I heard him inhale. Then, I didn't mean to feel this way. A whisper. Not meant to be heard. Not really. But I heard it, or maybe I imagined it. My thoughts were spinning too fast to tell the difference. I held still, not even blinking, every muscle locked in place as his breath lingered a second longer. Then the weight was gone, like he'd never been there at all. The silence returned. The fan hummed. My chest rose and fell too quickly. Had he really said that? Or was it just a product of some late-night fantasy bleeding into half-consciousness? I didn't know. But I can tell you this. It started before that night. It's strange, really, how something can feel inevitable in hindsight. Like there was always a thread pulling us forward, even when I was too scared to tug on it. I met Rory freshman year of college, the kind of accidental collision that turns into a gravitational pull. We were thrown together in a dorm mixer, both half-buzzed on warm beer and mutual disinterest in the people around us. He made some sarcastic comment about the music. I laughed, and suddenly we were sitting on the floor of someone's room sharing cold pizza and bitching about Econ 101 like we'd known each other forever. He was loud, charming, a little reckless, in that lovable way that only someone who's never been truly broken can be. He had a smile that made you want to be the reason it stuck around. Girls noticed him. A lot. And he noticed them back, always talking about some girl from lecture, or a Tinder match he wasn't sure about, but would probably end up seeing anyway. And I noticed him. Quietly. Carefully. From the very beginning, I felt it in the way my stomach twisted every time he laughed at something I said, or the way my chest tightened when he fell asleep on our couch with his head tilted toward me like he trusted me more than I deserved. But I buried it, deep, like a dead thing you don't want anyone digging up. I told myself it was just a friendship, that I was projecting, that he was straight. Full stop. End of story. We stayed close through college, closer than most people. Expected. He was my person. I was his. Through breakups, breakdowns, finals, internships, we had a rhythm, a code. We moved into a shared apartment right after graduation, mostly because rent in our city was brutal, and splitting it made sense. But the air between us started changing. Subtly at first. Rory started lingering. He'd sit next to me on the couch when there was plenty of space elsewhere. Sometimes his leg would press against mine and he wouldn't move. Other times, his hand would rest too long on my shoulder after a joke, his fingers curling slightly like they didn't want to let go. When he drank, he got looser, warmer. He'd drape an arm around me like it was second nature, like I belonged. There. I kept telling myself it didn't mean anything, that it was just Rory being Rory. Until one night. He came home from a bar, a little more gone than usual. I was already in bed when I heard him stumble in, the door creaking and his keys clattering to the kitchen counter. I thought he'd crash on the couch like he usually did. Instead, I felt my bedroom door creak open. He mumbled something I couldn't understand and crawled into my bed like it was his. Just flopped down beside me, one arm across my waist, his face pressed into my pillow like he was chasing some kind of comfort. My whole body went rigid. I was hyper-aware of every breath, every inch of him against me. He didn't move. He just slept. And I lay there for hours, completely still, heart racing like a drum in my throat. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt the weight of his arm, the heat of his chest behind me. It was the closest I'd ever been to someone I wasn't allowed to want. In the morning, he didn't say a word about it. He just stretched, yawned, and wandered into the kitchen like nothing had happened. I didn't bring it up. I couldn't. The fear of ruining everything kept my mouth shut. But from that moment on, something shifted in me, and maybe in him too. After that night, the one where Rory crawled into my bed like it meant nothing, I started noticing things I wasn't sure were real, or maybe I just wasn't sure I wanted them to be. It started with the way he looked at me, not in passing or in that casual, friendly way he used to, but lingered, like he was seeing something he didn't quite understand. His eyes would lock on mine during conversations and stay there too long. Sometimes he'd blink like he forgot what he was saying, and it wasn't just the looks. It was in the way he acted when I mentioned going on dates. I tried to play it casual, talking about a guy I met at the bookstore or someone I matched with on an app. At first, he'd nod along, but then his jaw would tense just slightly, his responses shorter. One night, I was swiping through profiles on my phone while we were watching TV. Rory snatched the phone from my hand and said, "You have terrible taste." I laughed. "And you're the expert?" "I'm just saying," he muttered, not looking at me. "You could do better than half these dudes." "You jealous or something?" I teased, smirking. He rolled his eyes and tossed my phone back like it burned him. "Don't flatter yourself." But there was a flush in his cheeks he couldn't hide. It only got weirder from there. There was this night, one of those lazy, nothing Friday evenings, when we were watching a movie on the couch. It was cold, so we ended up sharing the big gray blanket we always fought over. Somehow our thighs ended up touching under it. Not a big deal, except neither of us moved. We sat like that for 2 hours, shoulders brushing, our sides pressed together, in a way that made my skin buzz. At one point I glanced over at him. He was staring at the screen, but his hand shifted under the blanket, closer to mine, then back, like he didn't even know what it was doing. When the movie ended, he didn't move right away. The screen went dark. The only light in the room came from the kitchen. He let out this low sigh and said quietly, "Do you ever feel like you're not where you're supposed to be?" I turned my head toward him. "What do you mean?" He swallowed. "I don't know. Just lost lately, like everything I thought I wanted doesn't fit anymore." My chest tightened. I wanted to ask more, to push, but I was scared of what I'd hear, or worse, what I wouldn't. Instead, I said, "Yeah, sometimes." That was all he said. That was all I got. The rest of the night passed in silence, not uncomfortable, just charged. Like if I reached out, something would happen. And if I didn't, I'd be stuck in that aching uncertainty forever. I talked to my friend Jonas about it over coffee the next day. We'd known each other since high school. He'd seen me through some awful crushes. I kept my voice low, just in case someone was eavesdropping, and told him about Rory, about the looks, the touches, the blanket, the weird tension that kept bubbling up between us. Jonas raised a brow and stirred his coffee slowly. "Micah, come on." He's straight. "You really think this is going somewhere?" I hesitated. "I don't know. Maybe he's not, or maybe he's just confused." "And you're okay being the experiment?" That shut me up, because I wasn't. Not really. I just didn't want to let go of the possibility that maybe, I hadn't imagined it all. Still, Jonas wasn't wrong. Getting too close to someone who didn't know what they wanted had heartbreak written all over it. A few nights later, Rory came home late. He smelled like whiskey and rain and trouble. He stood in the doorway of my room, leaning against the frame, eyes glassy and lips curled in that cocky half-smile that used to mean I'm about to talk shit. "You know," he said, voice low and slurred, "if I were into guys, I'd probably be into you." I blinked, pulse skipping. "Is that so?" He shrugged, stepping closer. "Yeah, you've got that sad puppy look." "It works." I forced a laugh. "Glad I appealed to your theoretical preferences." He grinned, then looked down. His hand brushed mine as he turned to go. "I'm serious, though. You're easy to be around." I sat there stunned, trying to hold on to the warmth in his voice. But in the morning, he was back to normal. No mention of what he said. Just a casual, "You want eggs?" Like nothing had happened. I didn't answer right away, because nothing did happen, and yet, somehow, everything was changing. Rain had started sometime in the afternoon, soft at first, like a background hum. By nightfall, it had turned into a full-blown storm, windows rattling gently in their frames, thunder rumbling low and deep, like the sky had something to say. Rory was quiet. Not the usual tired kind of quiet after a long day, but the kind that sat heavy in the air. He nursed his drink slower than usual, eyes fixed somewhere behind the television screen, barely reacting to the movie we had on. I didn't ask what was on his mind. Not yet. I'd learned with Rory that you didn't press. You waited for him to offer. We sat on the floor, backs against the couch, an old blanket draped over our legs. I was sipping a whiskey he brought home last week, just to try. His thigh brushed against mine. He didn't move it. I didn't either. "I ever tell you," I said after a while, staring into the rim of my glass, "that I used to think being invisible was a superpower I actually wanted?" Rory turned his head toward me slowly, eyes searching. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I don't know. Growing up it felt safer, not being noticed. It was easier to blend in than get picked apart, you know?" His brow furrowed. "You think you're invisible now?" I smiled without looking at him. "Most of the time, yeah. People look at me and see the version of me they want, but not the actual me." There was a silence after that. Not awkward, just thick. Rory's voice came quieter than usual. "I see you, Micah." I looked at him. He was already looking at me. There was something raw in his face, unshielded. "Do you ever feel like you're hiding something?" he asked, his voice barely above the sound of the storm outside. My breath caught. "Are you hiding something?" He gave a soft laugh, but there was no humor in it. Just weariness. All the time. Another silence. Longer this time. I felt like I was standing on a ledge and the wind was picking up. Rory turned his eyes away first, finishing the rest of his drink in one slow swallow. He stood, stretching half-heartedly, and mumbled, "I'm gonna crash." "Long day." "Yeah," I said too quickly. "Good night." He didn't say anything else, just disappeared into his room. I sat there for a while after, replaying the whole conversation in my head like there was a clue I'd missed. Some secret meaning behind the things he didn't say. Eventually, I crawled into bed, hoping sleep would come fast and numb. But my body was too wired, my thoughts too loud. I tossed once, then twice, then tried to count backwards from 100. I don't know when I finally dozed off, but I know exactly when I woke up. It was subtle at first, just a shift in weight, a change in pressure, like the mattress had sighed. My eyes fluttered open, heavy with sleep. The room was dark except for the faint blue light from the street lamp outside, casting thin shadows across the ceiling. I froze when I felt it, warmth, a hand on the mattress beside me, then a knee, Then the full weight of someone easing down on top of me, slow, like they were trying not to wake me, but I was awake. Rory. He hovered over me, his face barely a breath away, arms on either side of my head. I could feel the heat of his skin, the tremble in his chest. My heartbeat roared in my ears, louder than the thunder outside. His eyes were open, searching my face like he didn't believe I was real. He didn't say anything at first, just stayed there, motionless, looking at me. Then barely audible, just enough for me to catch it in the quiet. I was supposed to be straight, Micah, but you ruined that. My breath hitched. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. His voice still echoed in my ears, that one line burning like a brand into my skin. He looked down at me, something wild and terrified in his eyes, like he wasn't sure what he'd just done or what it meant. I wanted to ask, what does this mean? Is this real? What happens now? But I couldn't form words. I couldn't even breathe right. He leaned down, slowly. His lips hovered an inch above mine, his breath warm and quick. His fingers trembled where they gripped the sheet. His body, tense above mine, was pulling forward and pulling back. I thought he might kiss me. He didn't. He hesitated there, eyes locked on mine, torn and shaking, and then, just like that, he pulled away, got up, backed out of the bed like he'd broken something. He didn't say a word. He left the room. The door clicked shut behind him, and I was left staring into the dark, my heart beating out of time, a hollow ache in my chest. I didn't sleep after that. The next morning, the apartment felt wrong. Too quiet. Too still. The sound of rain was gone, but it had left behind that soft, gray, overcast light that made everything look washed out, like the world hadn't fully woken up yet. Neither had I, really. I hadn't slept. I'd laid there, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of what had happened, trying to decide if it had even really happened. For the first time in months, Rory wasn't in the kitchen making coffee when I came out of my room. No sarcastic comment, no sleepy grin, just silence. His bedroom door was closed. I poured my own cup, hands shaking slightly. Every sound felt louder than it should have been. The clink of the spoon against ceramic, the gurgle of the machine. My chest ached like I'd run a mile without stopping. When he finally emerged, his eyes flicked. To me once, then away. He walked past without a word. "Morning," I tried. He nodded. Didn't look up. He grabbed a banana and disappeared into the bathroom. It was like that all day. Quick glances, mumbled replies. Distance. It made me feel like I was going insane. Had I dreamed it? Had I imagined the weight of his body on top of mine, the look in his eyes, the words, those exact, devastating words? No, I hadn't, and I couldn't keep pretending. That evening, I found him sitting on the balcony, hood up, earbuds in, staring out at the sky like he was waiting for something to strike him. I opened the sliding door and stepped out, heart pounding. Rory. He didn't look at me. I moved closer. You can't keep pretending nothing happened. He pulled out one earbud but still didn't meet my eyes. Say something, I said. My voice cracked. Anything. What the hell was that last night? Rory's mouth opened, but nothing came out at first. He pressed his palms together, fingers trembling slightly. Then finally, I don't know. That's not an answer. I don't know, Micah, he snapped, standing abruptly. I don't know who the hell I am right now. I don't know what I'm feeling or what I'm supposed to do with it. I'm scared, okay? I stared at him. Part of me wanted to pull him close, the other part wanted to shove him away. You don't get to confuse me, I said, my voice low. Not if you're not willing to be honest. You don't get to show up in the middle of the night and say things like that and then act like none of it matters. Rory looked at me like he wanted to say more, but he didn't. He just nodded, once, barely, and turned back toward the door. We didn't say anything else. The distance between us had never felt so wide. Days passed in a blur of silence and awkwardness. The tension between us was suffocating, thick enough to taste in the air. Rory had avoided me as much as possible, and I tried to move on, but it felt impossible. Every time he brushed past me, or the sound of his voice hit the air, my heart would skip. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but I didn't know how. So I settled into the numbness, pretending like everything was fine, even though it wasn't. I kept myself busy, working, reading, filling the space with noise so I didn't have to think about how much I missed him, the real him, the one I thought I understood. But it was hard to ignore the aching emptiness in the apartment when he wasn't around. Then one night, long after midnight, Rory came home. I didn't hear him at first. The apartment was dark, save for the moonlight streaming in from the window. I was reading, lost in the pages of a book that wasn't holding my attention, when the front door creaked open, the sound of footsteps heavy and slow. Rory didn't turn on the lights. He stood there for a moment, like he was gathering his thoughts, his back to me. I waited, but I didn't speak. When he finally turned around, his face was drawn, eyes red-rimmed, like he hadn't slept in days. I set the book down, my heart racing. I'm sorry, he began, voice hoarse. I shouldn't have shut you out. I didn't say anything, just nodded, unsure of what to do. I've spent my life pretending, Micah, he continued, his words coming slower now, like each one cost him something. I've been pretending for so long I didn't know how to stop. But I know this. I know I feel safe with you. That's something I never expected. Something I didn't know how to understand. My throat tightened, and I swallowed hard. I've always looked at you differently, he whispered, taking a step toward me. But I didn't know what it meant, didn't know what it made me. He paused, his chest rising and falling quickly, like the words were difficult to get out. Can you give me time while I figure this out with you? His voice was trembling now, and I saw the vulnerability there, something raw and real I hadn't seen before. It was terrifying, the uncertainty hanging between us, but in his eyes, I saw something else too. Hope. I didn't answer right away. I just nodded, finally letting the tension fall away, even though the road ahead was unclear. At least now we were on it together. I took a beat, letting the words hang between us. The weight of everything that had been left unsaid suddenly pressing down on my chest. I could feel my heart hammering in my ears, the uncertainty still lingering. But there was something else, too, a fragile thread of hope. I reached out slowly, my hand trembling just slightly, and took his. He didn't pull away. Instead, he held my hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. As long as you're honest, I said quietly, I'll wait. Rory's grip tightened, and for the first time in days, we were finally connected, not just physically but emotionally. I could feel the warmth of his hand in mine, the reassurance that we were in this together, no matter how uncertain it all still felt. We lay side by side, our bodies close but not quite touching, holding hands like it was the one thing that could anchor us both. The silence between us was no longer suffocating. It was comfortable, filled with the promise of something new, something raw and unspoken. I closed my eyes, breathing in the same air as him. Sometimes the scariest part isn't the fall, I thought. It's realizing someone might be there to catch you,